And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk Live. And you can find the live portion on YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and on Prepper University. That is at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and the moniker for that is at Coffee Talk Chat, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. As we get ready to jump off into what is going on in our crazy world today. And of course, for the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see what is going on in the live portion, and please do join us sometime if you can. I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable so that you can keep up with the conversation, and I'll go ahead and say hello to some of those people now. See, Helter has joined us here today, as well as Dragon. Doc is here. Legends is here. Brian is here, as well as Michael joining us today. Doc says that he hit the like button. Much appreciated. If anybody wouldn't mind, if you are on one of the YouTube channels or both of them, to go ahead and hit the like button. It helps a lot. I do have one feline in the room. Mystery, we're going to play Where's Waldo for those of you who can see. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? She is visible. It's Granny Smith. Granny Smith is hiding in the room. She is visible if you can spot her. As we get ready to dive into what is going on in the world today, what the hell is going on? Too much of one thing and not enough of the other, as they say. And we're going to start in Mexico. We talked about Mexico last week because Mexico has had their elections. And Legend says, glad to see the new format is starting to get better. Me too, because Restream was wonky. I'm using Restream, and Restream is bad. It gets weird sometimes. And New York is here as well. New York has joined us. No one sees Granny Smith. No one can see Granny Smith, those of you who are looking. Well, I'll tell you where she is in a minute as we get ready to pop open the first article, because they have finished their election. There was a landslide election, if you can believe such a thing happens in politics anymore. And what is this? What is this? This is acting weird. Hang on a second. While I, that's better. No, that's not good either. That's not good either. It's not sharing the screen properly. That's where I was. And what am I trying to do here? That's what I'm trying to do. There we go. Got weird on me, but I fixed it. Daily Mail article. What Mexico's new president said about Trump's migrant warning. So first day in office, that's where she is. The ruling of the Morena party, Claudia Sheinbaum gestures while addressing her supporters. There she is. Yay, she won. President of Mexico. Congratulations, female president in Mexico. So here we go. Mexico's new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has said she thinks her relationship will be good with whoever wins the 2024 U.S. election, whether it's Trump or Joe Biden. That's despite former President Trump saying last year for the second time that immigrants are poisoning, the blood of our country. Sheinbaum, who is Jewish, will become the first female president of Mexico after the National Electoral Institute's president said she had between 58.3% and 60.7% of the vote. The Associated Press reported Sheinbaum will succeed her mentor, President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, a populist who has expanded social programs but largely failed to reduce cartel violence in Mexico. Because you're not going to reduce cartel violence with contracts and far left-leaning policies. I'm sorry. Scheinbaum, the 61-year-old former mayor of Mexico City, made her comments about Trump last month on Bloomberg, where she said, what did she say? I think it will be good whether President Biden or President Trump wins. Scheinbaum said, in Spanish, I would think so. We have very strong economic integration with the United States. We are now the principal trading partner, and that requires us to have a good relationship. So, in other words, you have to trade with the U.S., so you're going to suck it up no matter who wins. Second only to Canada, Mexico is a huge trading partner with the U.S., buying $324.3 billion worth of American exported goods in 2022, according to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representation. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement entered into force on July 1st, 2020, and was ushered in by Trump, Obrador, and Justin Trudeau in 2018. President Lopez Obrador, in the end, has had a good relationship with Trump, and I don't see why we wouldn't be able to have it as well, Scheinbaum told the BBC. Okay. So Scheinbaum won the election. And Raccoon has joined us. Glad you could make it today, Raccoon. Scheinbaum won the election. Scheinbaum, they said a landslide victory. I don't think 60% is quite a landslide. That's good numbers, but it's not a landslide. 58.3 to 60.7% of the vote. That's better than 2% of a difference. So you can't calculate your votes to within 2%. 2% is a big margin of error for only getting just over half the vote. Just saying. Just saying, you might want to round that off, buddy. You might want to figure that out. So first female Mexican president, which means, to me, means absolutely nothing. I hate that. I've been seeing a lot of that. You see a lot of that in the United States. You see a lot of it in the Western world, where they want to put females in charge of everything so they can pretend to be diversified. And I don't have a problem necessarily with a female being in a powerful lawmaker position, provided she does the job. Hell, you know what? She doesn't even have to be qualified to do it. Do you think Jesse Ventura was qualified to be the governor of Minnesota when he won? Do you think he was qualified to be a governor? But if he does the job, so what? I swear, you could put a suit on a monkey and they could do most of these lawmakers' jobs. If they're willing to do the job, I don't care. But are they? Or are they just a diversity hire so that people can say, oh, look what we did? That remains to be seen in her case, because I don't know anything about this woman. She was president, or she was the mayor of Mexico City. I don't care. So she has a history in politics. Did she do a good job as the mayor of Mexico City? I have no idea. I really don't know anything about her. Paul is here, as well as Fluke Man. So again, it remains to be seen. She's playing that real easy by sitting there and saying, oh, I'm sure I'll get along with whoever it is, whether it's Trump or Biden. She kind of has to say that because she can't sit there and pan one of them when they're in a big trade agreement. No one was able to spot where Granny Smith is. To get back to that, she's right there. There she is. See? Sitting on, or sleeping on top of my printer. Granny Smith, everybody. The lovely Miss Granny Smith. Sleeping peacefully on the printer. I know she was kind of behind me there, but part of her was showing. Part of her was showing. As we carry on here, and we'll jump out of Mexico. And again, I mean, I didn't read it, but part of the article also said that she's going to stick with a lot of Obrador's very leftist policies. She doesn't intend to change very much of that. And that's a mistake, because that's making them weaker. That weakens their position. Those leftist, hardline leftist policies are not going to help them deal with the cartels. So she's going to have to rethink that. You need somebody in there with a military mindset that wants to stomp the crap out of this and put it to bed. Legend says he actually had experience as a mayor prior to his time as governor. Also, he ran as an independent and won, something that would be damn near impossible today. Okay. talking about Jesse Ventura. I don't know how he was as a mayor either, though. I didn't live in Minnesota, but maybe he did a good job, maybe he didn't. And Paul says, "Wish I could sleep some sound." Sleep some sound. You're not sleeping well, Paul? So we're going to jump from Mexico to South Korea and just wrap up things with South Korea, because South Korea has now made official statements about the trash. But as we pointed out in the article that that we were reading last week, evidently them sending balloons back and forth North and South Korea is a pretty common occurrence. They've been doing it for years. More so South Korea, with leaflets telling people in North Korea how much it sucks to be in North Korea, which if they live there, and that's true, they already know that. It's doing this again. There we go. That's what I want. I don't know why it's doing that. But back to North Korea with their official statements here, and this is a CNN article. North Korea says it's halting sending trash balloons to South Korea after hundreds more float over the border. So they've continued it all week. North Korea said it was stopping sending trash-filled balloons to South Korea after Seoul reported hundreds more airborne waste deliveries floating across the border. And again, they've sent trash before. They've also sent leaflets, flyers. They've sent discs with information, and this is something North and South Korea have done. North Korea has sent trash before, but recently they've taken to sending excrement and raw sewage. Now, North Korea's Vice Defense Minister Kim Kang-il said that the country will, quote, temporarily halt dropping trash over the border after claiming to have sent a total of 15 tons of trash to its neighbor, according to his statement released by state media on Sunday. Kim said the balloons were strictly a responsive act to South Korea's years-long practice of sending balloons with anti-North Korea leaflets the other way. Quote, "We've let South Koreans experience enough of how dirty it feels and how much joint effort it takes to clean up spread out rubbish," Kim said. A South Korean official pledged his country would take, quote, unendurable measures against North Korea for sending more trash balloons this weekend, which will be specified in the coming days. Could you possibly sanction them any more than they already are? The official from the presidential office added that the government will not rule out the issue of resuming playing loudspeakers that used to blast propaganda across the demilitarized zone, but had been turned off since a military agreement was signed in 2018. Oh, that's right. They did used to do that. Oh, no. They just can't get along out there. I'm telling you what. South Korean's Joint Chief of Staff said no substance harmful to safety were found among the hundreds more balloons that reached the country on Saturday evening, unlike just a few days ago when used toilet paper was found in some of the about 150 balloons that crossed the border. That is just so childish. The latest photos released by the JCS shows a large sack containing what appears to be paper left on the roadside, while other images show officers inspecting garbage strewn on the ground. Others showed burned out cigarette butts. According to images released by authorities, the packages are covered by large gas-filled balloons, or conveyed, South Korea said its military is working with police, local government, safety ministry, and the United Nations Command. United Nations Command needs to mind its own business to safely retrieve the balloons and the debris. The balloons were found in the capital, Seoul, as well as the province of Gyeonggi and Cheongkyong. Some were even spotted more than 300 kilometers or 150 miles south of the capital in Gyeongsang province. Nice. Used toilet paper, cigarette butts, things like that. Unbelievable. As I catch up a couple of comments, Raccoon says, like the cartels will fear a woman president, nothing will change. Yeah, probably not. Legend says, funny thing as I listen to this show to help myself fall asleep every night, that my voice is soothing. Okay, well, I'm glad I'm useful. Dragon says, South Korea is blaring propaganda over loudspeakers at the border, and North Korea is floating balloons full of garbage and shit back at them. This is some Looney Tunes level activity. Yeah, well, no one's going to cross the demilitarized zone. It's a death trap. It's a death trap. They will kill you. It's just so funny. They used to blast the loudspeakers. They stopped under an agreement in 2018, but they said they might start doing it again. So blasting music that can be heard from or other propaganda that can be heard for miles and miles and miles. I doubt anybody's living that close to the border. I don't know. Helter says South Korea might want to send the cleanup bill to Kim Jong-un, though he will ignore it, I'm sure. Yeah, nobody's going to pay any bills out there. No way. But it's just such childish behavior from both of them. Both of them. It says earlier this year, South Korean research group released rare footage that it claimed showed North Korean teenagers sentenced to hard labor for watching and distributing K-dramas, or South Korean soap opera on disc is what it is. That's what K-dramas are. But who knows what the hell happens in North Korea? Who knows for sure, really? I'm sure it is hard living. But South Korea is not going to save anybody. It doesn't make any sense. And Turk by V says, good afternoon. Glad you could join us today as we're rounding off talking about the mess in South Korea as balloons full of evidently used toilet paper, excrement, raw sewage, cigarette butts and other trash, discarded batteries and so on are floated across the border with balloons with explosive packs to release them by North Korea. And I guess they traveled over the border all week. Hundreds of them. North Korea claims they sent 15 tons of garbage this way. They're probably exaggerating because that's what North Korea does. They exaggerate things. So it could, they might be exaggerating, but they still sent trash. They still sent some pretty nasty stuff over the border. So we'll see what happens. Oh, Turk says they are formerly the Unknown Knows. I see, you changed your name. Raccoon says that's true. People were arrested and some killed for distributing bootleg DVDs of Squid Game TV series. Really? Well, that's North Korea for you. Hey, that's where your Western governments are trying to get you to. Because that's some 1984 Orwellian stuff right there. But that's what they want here. They want to take away all your weapons. They want to take away your freedom of speech. They want you to love they want you to love the state more than your parents. One thing that I saw, someone who was a person who escaped from North Korea that moved to South Korea. Okay, they got away from North Korea. They're living in South Korea now. And I saw them, I forget, it was months ago. And I think they were talking before Congress because they've come to the United States now since then. It's been a decades-long journey for this woman. I can't remember her name. But in a nutshell, she was speaking before Congress and saying that when she looks at the public schools in the United States now and the way that it's formatted, it reminds her of how things used to be done in North Korea, where they tell you this, they're officially the state is your parent, and children inform on their parents at home to the officials at the school. They get their parents arrested. They can get them put into labor camps. All sorts of things can happen. And she said that she sees a lot of the same types of propaganda happening in public schools in the United States now, and it frightens her. It frightens her. Brian says, is that a Namco museum for PlayStation 2? Actually, yes. I do have a Namco museum disc for the PlayStation 2 sitting back there somewhere. I'm surprised you spotted that. And Spectre is here. Glad you could make it, Spectre. Thanks for joining us today for the live portion of Coffee Talk. And speaking of being disruptive and destructive, we're going to jump to the UK. We're going to jump to the UK. And we're going to take a look. What is this again? I'm going to have to figure out why it keeps doing that. We're going to jump to the UK, and we're going to talk about activists, pro-Palestinian activists destroying banks. Daily Mail article: activists shatter windows and hurl red paint over the Barclays in Bolton. A Barclays branch in Bolton has had its windows smashed and red paint thrown over and inside the building, with police on the scene. Palestine Action have claimed responsibility for the attack, along with another in Bradford, demanding Barclays divest from Israel's biggest weapons firm, and that'll be Elbit Systems. Greater Manchester police are investigating after cordoning off the bank on the corner of Market Street and Hotel Street this morning, but have made no arrests yet. It comes within weeks of both Manchester and Brighton having branches vandalized by pro-Palestinian activists. So several banks have gotten this treatment, in case you haven't seen this in the news at all. Pictures showed how the Bolton shop front was left with shattered windows after the incident in the early hours today. They also showed how vandals had carpeted the outside walls and interior of the branch with paint, which was smeared across TV screens and marketing material. Here's a shot of the bank with the signage smashed, the windows smashed. It looks like some of the furnishings and other equipment on the inside of the bank have also been damaged, and they've thrown red paint all over the place. That's a big mess, actually. For those of you who are able to see this, this is one of several banks this has happened to in the last few weeks. Here's another shot where they've broken all the windows out of the bank. This is a step beyond like those Stop Oil Now people who throw paint at a shield in front of a painting, knowing that painting won't be harmed. This level of vandalism against the bank could come with felony charges. Just saying that you don't mess with a bank. There are banks in pretty much every country have government protection. So that's a huge mistake that they're making here. It says the Palestine Action X account shared pictures of the bank after it had been vandalized, along with one from Bradford. It commented, Palestine Action targeted the Bradford and Bolton branches of Barclays, demanding the bank divest from Israel's biggest weapons firm. The incident follows two others over the weekend in Manchester city centre, claimed by the same protest group alongside the vandalism of a BNY Mellon branch, where 4 people were arrested. A spokesperson for the Greater Manchester Police said at 2:54 a.m. this morning, we were called following reports of criminal damage and red graffiti over a building on Market Street in Bolton. No arrests have been made and inquiries are ongoing. They'll find them, especially if these people are stupid enough to take credit for it. Oh yeah, we did this. Sure. You think they won't find you now and hold you accountable for the mess? This is pretty stupid. This is pretty stupid. And Chris is here. He says, stupid Dems. I don't think they're Dems in Great Britain, but close enough. Very, very left-leaning, protesting something they don't understand. Naturally, something they don't understand. Isn't enough going on in England that you could be worried about, and you're going to risk prison. Again, banks are protected in, I believe, every country by the government officially. This is a felony. It's not going to really count as vandalism. It'll go beyond that. That's a straight felony. So these people are risking, and here's pictures of some of the other banks. I can open up another one here for you to look at. Especially if they damaged any of these money machines. Like you see that here's another bank where they smashed the windows out and damaged some of the interior and threw paint around. If they damaged any of those money machines, the charges are going to go nuts. There's a bunch of stupid kids with nothing better to do. No past, no present, no future. Protesting something they don't understand. And I'm sure there's more than enough to worry about in Great Britain than to invest yourself in something that's halfway around the world that you've got nothing to do with. Same problems that we're seeing in the United States. Same problems we're seeing in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, take your pick. All these spoiled kids, all these entitled kids, being misled. They've been misled, they've been manipulated because they're young and they're foolish. I was young and foolish once, but I didn't do anything like this. Just doesn't make any sense. Doc Galt says the UK handles criminals differently than the US, though the UK is soft on crime. I don't know if the banks are going to let them get away with that, though. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And the US can be pretty soft, too. I mean, it depends on where you are in the US. They can be pretty soft on crime as well, to the point where it's almost kind of sickening. It's like, why the hell are you letting this go on? It remains to be seen what will happen as this is followed up on. And I'll watch in the coming weeks and see if there's a follow-up story on it. Cruising says, signed in just in time to hear about spoiled and entitled kids and said, amen, without context. Yeah, there you go. Chris says, takes no effort to be stupid. This is the explanation for these actions. Yeah, absolutely. And Brian says, virtue signaling kids who like to look like they're good people. Yeah, it's a facade. It's a facade. It's all at face value. Look at me. I'm on the right side of history. History that no one will care about in 10 years. What are you on the right side of? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And again, speaking as a former stupid kid myself, who did a lot of dumb things growing up, I'm just glad I never got roped in anything like this. It makes me think back to when I was a kid and people were protesting deforestation, and they were chaining themselves to trees. Who's old enough to remember this? People were chaining themselves to trees, and they'd have to come and cut the links on the trees and arrest them so that the lumberjack crews could get on with their work. Something that no one seems to give a shit about anymore. Quite frankly, it's kind of faded away now. But one of the things they used to also do, and Tuck says that they remember, one of the things they used to do, tell me if you remember this, was that they would drive spikes into the tree. So they would go around to where the lines were met. Because if they were going to go and cut through, they would put markers. There's an orange mark they would put on the tree that meant it was going to come down. They still do that. And they would drive a spike in the tree there. Because if they went to cut the tree down and they hit that spike with the chainsaw, the chain would snap. Problem is, often that meant somebody was going to get killed. A lot of people were seriously wounded or even killed because of those spikes. Bunch of damn kids thinking they're doing something. And it's not like, it's not like when they deforest in the rainforest, which is a much bigger problem in South America, because that's untapped land. In the modern era, and even in the 80s, they replant everything. And this is the argument. I see this in the Charmin commercial, and I call BS, because Charmin wants to put themselves on a pedestal. I don't know if you ever saw the Charmin commercials, Charmin toilet paper, where they say, oh, well, you know, for every tree we cut down, we plant 2 more. That's a common practice with loggers. Okay. That's how they keep restocked. It has nothing to do with saving the environment, Charmin. But I know most people aren't smart enough to see through that. But that's a common practice with any of these paper suppliers, whether it's toilet paper, paper towels, whether it's typing paper, whatever it is. And so that's just virtue signaling on their part, bragging about a common practice, replanting so that, you know, as it grows, you can go back to the beginning and start over. It's different in the rainforest because it's not being reclaimed. That's a very dangerous problem. And Spectre chimes in here. He says, yeah, those spikes will break the chain and swing back on the guy using the chainsaw, and it can be deadly. And Doc Galt says, run 4-foot chains or larger, it'll decapitate you. And Cruising says the old growth forests stopped being tapped after World War II. And then Flukeman says, I think I know who you're referring. The Korean woman escaped from the North Korea, as you mentioned. She's famous and wrote a book. Some North Koreans said she purposely blows it up for money, not saying it's true. Yeah, I can't think of her name, but I remember her talking before Congress and saying, hey, listen, the way things look in public school right now, this is how it looked to me as a child growing up in North Korea, with basically the state being God and the state being the parents. And I emphasize with that greatly, given my experience dealing with the public school system, not just personally, but professionally as well. I didn't work directly for public schools, but I had to work with them in several different incarnations, as well as private schools, which actually ties into the next article I wanted to pull up. This is a practice that is being demonized in the media, but I don't quite feel that way about it. And this is a Washington Post article. Billions in taxpayer dollars now go to religious schools via vouchers. So the article reads, billions in taxpayer dollars are being used to pay tuition at religious schools throughout the country as state voucher programs expand dramatically and the line separating public education and religion fades. School vouchers can be used at almost any private school, but the vast majority of the money is being directed to religious schools, according to a Washington Post examination of the nation's largest voucher programs. Vouchers, government money that cover educational costs for family outside the public schools, vary by state, but offer up to $16,000 per student per year, and in many cases fully cover the cost of tuition at private schools. In some schools, a large share of the student body is benefiting from a voucher, meaning a significant portion of the school's funding is coming directly from the government. In just 5 states with expansive programs, more than 700,000 students benefited from vouchers this school year. Those same states had a total of about 935,000 private school students in 2021, the most recent year for which data is available. An additional 200,000 was subsidized, and the rest of the country, according to tracking by EdChoice, a voucher advocacy group that suggests a substantial share of about 4.7 million students attending private school nationwide, possibly benefiting from vouchers, a number that is expected to grow. The program is popular with conservatives and is rapidly growing in GOP-run states, with a total of 28 states plus the District of Columbia operating some sort of voucher system. 8 states created or expanded voucher programs last year. That's true. And this year, Alabama, Georgia, and Missouri have approved or expanded voucher-type programs. Some recently enacted plans are just starting to take effect or will be phased in over the next few years. The growth follows a string of recent victories in the Supreme Court and state legislators by religious conservatives who have campaigned to tear down what once were constitutional prohibitions against spending tax money directly on religious education. It also marks a win for the school choice movement, which has spent decades campaigning to let parents use tax money for any school that they see fit. Now, I'll point out, and I've mentioned this before, One thing that is often overlooked is the fact that the concept of the separation of church and state, where it applies to anything, is supposed to be that the state is supposed to stay out of the church's business, not the other way around. That was the original intention of church versus or keeping of the separation of church and state, although that's been twisted over the years. That's been twisted. Okay. I am all for these voucher programs. I think it's a great idea for a variety of reasons. One, because it takes you one step away from public school, period. You still got to be discerning. You still have to be discerning looking at a private school if you're going to invest in a private school, but it's better than a public school any day of the week. Public schools are a desperate money pit. And their solution always is give us more money. They can never fix any of their problems. The problems continue to get worse decade after decade, year after year. But their entire system is based around pour more money into us. The public school system is a bucket full of holes. It will never be full. It will never be full. And anything that is overseen by the state government that is a socialized project will fail. It will fail. You rarely see anything that is managed by the government that will not. And public school is a grand example of that. Most of you were probably in a public school. Did you think you learned anything looking back? How do you think your kids are doing there now? If you can't homeschool, private school is the next best thing. And especially since they take your tax money against your will, because you cannot control where it goes or how it's spent, and dump it into the public schools, whether you have a kid or not. As I've pointed out, every place that we've lived where we pay property taxes, damn near 80% of it goes to public school. It makes no sense. Why am I paying like $1,600 in property tax to the public school and then $9.40 to water and sewage a year and $13 to street lamps? That literally like 75-80% of it. The same thing when we were in Illinois. Damn near 80% of it was school taxes, almost $7,000, and no kid in public school. Give me my money back, and I'll put the kid where I damn please, in a school that I can monitor, that I picked myself, with a voucher. Give me back my money and let me spend it the way I want. I'm all for programs like this. People can get upset, but oh well. And Turk says our public schools did push some bogus info on environment in the direction of anti-capitalism, all while teaching to the exam, basically pushing kids to go to college so they can be good worker bees for corporations. And you don't learn anything in the colleges now either. Cruising says they didn't have a problem with tax money murdering kids, but they complain when it's used to educate them properly. Exactly. Yeah, they'll let your tax money go to gender affirming programs. I got to be careful. And other things. Cruising says, working on starting my own private micro school because of these vouchers. Tired of working around the lowest quintile or percentile. Doc says if they went to a public school, the best thing that they learned that they can still use today was in shop class. And where do you see that anymore? By the time I was in high school in Massachusetts in the 80s, they didn't have that. At least not where I was. And Puck says, indeed, the separation of church and state comes from the letter to Jefferson from the Danbury Baptists. Yeah, but it's been twisted over the years, and people think that it's to keep the church out of everyone else's business, and that's not the case. It's to keep the government from interfering with churches. Part of the reason why many people initially came to the United States was religious persecution, because they were coming from countries where there was a state-ordered religion, and if you did anything else, your life was hard. They gave you a hard time, and they're like, screw this. I'd rather like dig in the mud in a new country with no population barely, which in this case back then was the United States, then have you tell me what religion I'm supposed to have. And then you try to stick your nose in it and try to force me. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. And you should try to move away from the state telling you anything, trying to force anything on you. And the state has infiltrated the churches in the United States, in particular the Christian churches in the United States, through 501c3 charity vouchers and programs. If you want your full tax status and you have a 501c3 in your church, there are certain things you can't do anymore. Just ask anybody from Canada. And Doc says they got to run. They have a doctor's appointment. Well, good luck, Doc. Hopefully everything goes well. I don't like doctor's appointments. I don't trust the medical community. Add that to my list. But again, they've already infiltrated the Christian churches in the United States with those 501c3 vouchers. If you're going to a church that is a 501c3 charity, there's probably things that they will never talk about in that church because they don't want to get in trouble with the government and lose that charity status, which means that they're more concerned with the money than they are with saving your soul. Think about it. Puck says you're correct. Leftist thinks it's meant to prevent overly religious people from seeking office. Remember Pat Robertson? The gnashing of teeth was something else. There will be much wailing and gnashing of teeth. Absolutely. But again, I'm all for that. Yeah. If you're going to take my money, and again, I don't even have a kid in public school. If you're going to forcibly take my tax money for public schools, I would rather that parent have a choice. And again, if they can't homeschool, which would be the best choice, in my opinion, then private school is the next best thing. Give these people the vouchers. Let them spend their money. It's their money. You took it from them. And you're throwing it into a failure system that you cannot demonstrate works in any regard. It's been a failure system for decades, to the point of being embarrassing. To the point of being embarrassing. As we bounce around our globetrotting, we're going to wind up in California. We're going to bounce to California and talk about how things go there. Yeah, Fluke Man picking on me here. He says, you wouldn't give money for children's education. Think of the children. I am. I am. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. Because, and that's the argument that they would make. You are correct, Fluke Man. He's being sarcastic there, obviously. But that is what they would say. Well, what about our children? We're trying to educate our children. The children are our future. No, they are not. The children are not our future. We are theirs. And we are failing them. We are failing them because we're allowing these systems to take advantage of them. And that includes public school, and that includes the government. That includes the media, is failing these kids and manipulating these kids. And too many parents and too many adults are allowing it to happen. And you can't change the world. Not asking anyone to change the world, because you really can't. That's another huge lie that they spoon feed these kids. Oh, you're going to change the world. You're going to impact the world. No, you're not. You can only change yourself, and you can only work from within. You can only engage your own family, your own friends. You can't change the entire world, and you shouldn't try. You shouldn't try. Anyone who wants to change the whole world is lying or is disillusioned somehow. As we jump to California, San Diego Union Tribune. USCD academic workers strike over Gaza protest response as a final exams get underway. Here we go. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. A potentially huge labor strike was scheduled to begin early Monday at UC San Diego, where 8,000 academic workers have been asked by the union to join other UC campuses in protesting the system crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrations. United Auto Workers Local 4811 also asked its members at campuses in Irvine and Santa Barbara to go on strike. Workers at UCLA, UC Davis, and UC Santa Cruz have taken to the picket lines. The strike is beginning on the first day of the final exams for the spring quarter, traditionally one of the most stressful times of the year for students, and it would involve workers who do everything from grade papers and giving lectures to those who help conduct Alzheimer's disease research and study on climate change. Oh, please. Picketing was scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. Monday and a rally at Warren Mall next to Giesel Library at 11 a.m. USCD has taken several steps to deal with the possible impact on final exams, telling faculty that they have the option to do such things as administer no-fault exams where the final grade cannot negatively impact the student's grade. Well, then there's no point in grading them. If you're going to no-fault a grade, then there's no point in them even being at those colleges or universities. That's number one. Number two, you're upset about the crackdowns of these universities over what were essentially disruptive and even violent protests at the colleges and universities that were riddled with agitators who were not even from the colleges or universities. That's been established weeks back. Most of the people there aren't even from the colleges or universities. So the idea here is with the United Auto Workers and the UCSD is going to further harm the other students by disrupting them during final exams, by really forcing their unions. It says that the union workers have been asked by the union. Translation, you're a scab if you don't go. If you don't cooperate, you're a scab, and you'll be ostracized by the union, basically is the rough translation of what all that means. My point, ultimately, what the hell are the unions doing involved in something so socio-political in the first place? This is why I don't like or trust unions. Take care of your workers. Take care of your workers. Represent your workers. Fight for your workers. This has nothing to do with you. Leave your workers alone. Let them do their jobs. Are the workers being harmed? Are they in unsafe working conditions? Are they not getting paid? Are they being laid off, cut out and replaced with robots or something? No? Then mind your damn business and do what you're supposed to do. It's incredible. Catch up a couple of comments here. Turk says, my high school had a new cafeteria, but that was obsolete before they broke the ground, wasted money. I stood in line twice and both times had no time left to eat. And Puck says, I think that the protesters' message would get a wider audience if they were human shields in Gaza. Oh, no. But it bothers me that how much political garbage these unions are involved in all across the country, but not actually taking care of their workers. The only time I've seen in recent history where unions looked like they were taking care of their workers was Boeing. And we read the article, I believe it was last week, wasn't it? Where they're having a seminar for their workers to set up advocacy for whistleblowers because Boeing has a history of abusing whistleblowers. And now there's huge question about it because whistleblowers at Boeing, two of them have died recently. Two of them have died recently under mysterious circumstances. So that union stepped up and said, hey, we're going to try to watch out for you. We're going to set up advocacy. We're going to let you be anonymous, whatever. There you go. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. Not this. Not this. And Cruising says they were at a union planning meeting since they were elected to leadership, used the speaking time to castigate the rest for the 60 sidebars to anti-conservative policies or politics that occurred in 8 hours. I don't think unions should be allowed to donate money to political parties. I don't think they should represent political parties. I don't think that they should try to coerce or guarantee votes from their union members. I think they should just represent their members if they're going to do that. And they barely do that in my experience. I've had a lot of issues with unions. Again, I've been in 4 of them. Well, 3. I was in the Teamsters twice because I had no choice. But I've been in the but technically I've been in unions 4 times. Stay out of the politics. Stay the hell out of it. Represent your workers. I don't think, again, I've said it a million times. If I've said it once, unions, judges, and people in education, schools, whether it be public schools, colleges, universities, whatever, should not be donating money to any political party. And they should not be pushing the politics of any political party. They should not. And here's another one to round things off for the day, at the risk of getting in trouble. At the risk of getting in trouble, which I did actually over the weekend. I got in trouble again. I just can't win, folks. I can't. I don't know what to tell you when it comes to dealing with ScrewTube and some of the things that they do to me. Where is it here? Is this the one? Yeah, let me pull this up for you real quick. Let me pull this up for you real quick before we get into the next article. This is an email I got because, ScrewTube does something to me every day of the week. Every day of the week, something goes wrong. And this is what happened to me this weekend, amongst other things, because I got like, I think a half a dozen advertiser strikes over the weekend and another warning. And then this one, it says, "Hi, Coffee Talk. We wanted to let you know our team reviewed your content and we think it violates our misformation." I said it like that on purpose. "Policy. We know you may not have realized this was a violation of policy. We're not applying a strike to your channel, but we've removed the content." And this is one of the live streams. And it says time it occurred. You can see an example around 1954 in your video. No, I can't, because you took the video down and it was a live stream. It's not recorded anywhere. So, because they go on to say that I could review it and appeal. I can't review it and appeal if you took the video down and I don't have a copy of it. And this is a live stream from like a year and a half ago. Seriously, that's what this is. A live stream from a year and a half ago claiming that I made some false medical claim. That's what they do to you. That's what they do to you. Incredible, isn't it? Incredible, isn't it? How they treat you. This is how they treat me. It's every day, every day, every day. I get up in the morning and I wonder, as I stand there and brush my teeth, I wonder what I'm going to find in the email from ScrewTube today telling me that I did wrong. Every day of the week. Every day. New York says ScrewTube is ridiculous. Yeah. And it's like, I'm just a small channel. It's not like I'm Alex Jones here. It's not like I'm Tucker Carlson. Okay. And I've got I do a live and I've got 150,000 people watching. Puck says a year and a half ago, definitely being targeted. Congratulations. Yeah. Oh, no, that doesn't happen. Just ask them. They'll tell you there's no such thing as shadow banning. No such thing. A couple more comments and I'll get into the article. Raccoon says, "My friend worked in Philly under Nicky Scarfo, who ran the union, and he said he was a good leader, actually rewarded and helped workers who had problems. I guess not all gangsters are bad." It's a shame when you got gangsters that have more honor than actual lawmakers. Brian says they want us to make videos about wearing useless face diapers and social distancing and being locked in our homes like hibernating animals from a pandemic. Speaking of which, that's where this article goes, which is why I wanted to point that out before I read it, because I'm still going to try to be bold, and all I'm doing is reading news articles and just giving my honest opinion. It's the least you should expect from anybody. No one's paying me to talk. I'm not making any money here. I'm sure as hell not getting anything from AdSense. It's like if you watched the video, I probably made 2 cents. If you watched the ad at the beginning, I probably made 2 cents. But National Review article just emphasizing Dr. Fauci could not recall evidence for child masking, admitted that 6-foot distancing came from nothing, according to transcripts, because he's been getting interviewed relentlessly recently. And essentially, he's admitted bit by bit that they made all of it up. So Dr. Anthony Fauci, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, admitted there was no evidence to support social distancing to limit the spread of the C virus and failed to recall evidence for child masking, according to newly released transcripts of congressional testimony he gave earlier this year, because that actually works in reverse. If you keep a mask on all day and you don't change it or at least air it out, you're trapping moisture in there. You can't breathe through a moisture filter all day and not get sick. Fauci testified behind closed doors over 2 days in January to the House Select Subcommittee on the C virus pandemic, and the subcommittee released the transcripts of his testimony ahead of his public testimony scheduled to take place next week. Quote, I don't recall. It just sort of appeared. I don't recall. Like a discussion of whether it should be 5 or 6 or whatever. Did you see any studies that supported 6 feet? Question. Quote, I was not aware of a study. In fact, that would be a very difficult study to do, according to Fauci. Upon further questioning, Fauci said 6 feet was, quote, an empiric decision that wasn't based on data or even data that could be accomplished. So they said they couldn't even do a study on that if they wanted to, basically. If they couldn't even do a study on that if they wanted to, that it wouldn't make any damn sense. No, it wouldn't. The 6-foot directive was given by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and supported by Fauci, the face of the government's response to the C virus pandemic. I almost said it by accident. I get in enough trouble around here. And other public health officials, such as then National Institutes of Health Director Francis Collins. During the second day of testimony, Fauci made similar concession about the lack of scientific evidence to support masking children. Do you recall reviewing any studies or data supporting masking children? Quote, I might have, but I don't recall specifically that I did. I might have. You don't know what he did. He doesn't know. I don't know what I did. Maybe I looked. Maybe I didn't. That's a very political answer. Smart. That's smart. Don't admit to anything. Puck says Fauci claims social distancing ideas weren't made up. They just appeared. Yeah, they just appeared. He didn't make them up. Somebody else did. That's what it is. Hoodoo. It's hoodoo. Puck says MTG tore him a new one when she questioned him. She brought up the torturing of beagles too. Oh no. Don't hurt animals. You get me upset. New York says that he was a union painter for years. We had to be fit tested for proper mask fitment. Otherwise, masks are useless. And Ghost Wolf Primal says, good afternoon. Happy to make the stream. I wish you had come a little earlier because we're getting close to the end here. Again, we start at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And but I'm glad you could make it. Always happy to see anybody pop in. But yeah, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday is when we do that. We were just wrapping up talking about Fauci's confessions. And Puck says Fauci should be in prison. Yeah, but there's a lot of people that should go with him. And that's the thing. I really believe it that he is, and again, I have to say it's my opinion for the AI, but I really believe he is the designated scapegoat. And if anything goes down, he's going to sit there and take the rap for 100 other people, 200 other people that were all involved that you'll never see or hear about. And if he tries to pull an okey doke and sits in jail and says, well, you better get me out of here or I'm going to tell blah, 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 he'll end up like Epstein. Because I believe that's what happened to him. I think a lot of people believe that. One more crack at Granny Smith. Can you see Granny Smith down there now? There's Granny Smith sleeping on top of my printer. Sleeping peacefully. The only feline keeping me company today, ladies and gentlemen. The only feline. And Turk says he's being rewarded for it. Oh, he's been taken care of. He's been taken care of. Absolutely. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap things up. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And you can find the live portion on YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University, at Coffee Talk Live at Prepper University. You can also find me on X. If you have an X account, please join me there. And that is at Coffee Talk Chat. All of that information should be in the description, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will catch you again